Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it is Friday in the Rev. TGIF. And the humidity keeps coming. We're supposed to have it for another 7 or 8 days, even though the temperatures. So everybody
We're
stay
supposed to
up.
have a heat wave from Sunday through next Thursday. That's 90-degree temperatures plus and high humidity.
Yeah.
We're supposed to get rain tomorrow with high humidity, and we were supposed to get some rain today, but so far the sun's out, so I'm not sure how that's going to happen. But it is humid. It is humid.
Well, that's a great, it's a great, that's a great job, weatherman. You can be wrong all the time and they never fire you. They just say, well, we didn't say there was 100% chance, but, you might get a shower or you might. But I did see another weather forecast. I forgot which channel it was on, but the guy said that even if the temperature is down on a couple of days, we're still going to have tropical humidity.
Right.
So it's going to be, I'll tell you what, this is the worst July we've had in a long, long time. I mean, we've had Julys where we had 3-4 days of hot weather, but then we get a little bit of a break and the humidity kind of goes down. But this has been pretty sustained, for the last week or so. And now we're looking at another 7 or 8 days of it. So, everybody who's got
global warming, we're becoming Florida.
Horse shit. That global warming is like we've got people who actually tell the truth that said, there have been periods where the earth was warmer and everything runs in cycles. Remember, we had an ice age too, and that may be coming. So that's what wiped out the dinosaurs. So, but let's get back to the politics of things here, because
okay, Vice President Trump.
Okay, Putin. I want to introduce the president of Ukraine, Mr. Putin. I don't know. He's not a mental defective. Of course he isn't. This is what we got. But we got one in the 6th floor. Same thing. We got Mini Biden. He hides. You never see him. He only talks to his friends, and they just go along their merry way. And that's the problem that would happen. That's the reason we're going to get murdered with taxes and water bills. And we do have that issue with the water bill. I'm waiting for my water bill, because if they're going to charge me the new rate for water I bought, then there's going to be a problem, because that is not legal. It's their policy. I know they told you that. It's their policy. Yeah, that's right. He is. He's a mini Joe. Remember that movie? I forgot the name of it. They had Me and Mini Me. The guy was like a little. That's what he is. He's mini me. And but look, that would be like going to the gas station and them charging you $1 more than you're paying, and you go, "What are you charging me that for? It says $3.19. You just charged me $4.19." Well, that's what it's going to be next month, because that's going to be our new rate. So we're charging it to you now, even though you got it today. Well, the water I used in May, and I have spoken to people who paid their water bills in June. For some odd reason, I get my water bills at weird times. I don't get it. Like, I don't pay it in June. It's a different month. I don't know how they operate that stuff. But I'm going to tell you something. They paid last year's rates. They paid last year's rate, which they should. Now, because the people who are going to get their water bills that are going to be mailed after July, we're going to pay a higher bill for May's water? I don't think so. I don't care what their policy is. You can't do that. Because when they vote those water rates, they say, they go into effect as soon as they vote them. Well, you got a problem. You got a problem here. Legal problem. Of course, the council and the mayor and the school committee never give a damn about the law, except when they can manipulate it for their own favor. You can't. They passed the budget last year, and that water rate was what they used as their funding rate for water. sewer. Now, if they begin to charge us more, it means that that budget was not correct. They're getting money fundamentally from a previous fiscal year by charging us more. And you can't do that. You can't even change the budget like that. There's a mechanism for doing it. And in case you yo-yos over there want to look it up, it's chapter 44, section 33. It gives you the mechanisms about appropriations and stuff. We all know that when you can't pay bills from a previous year with money from this year without it being acted on specifically by the city council, because that budget is gone. So theoretically, they're spending money from last year's budget when they billed me for that in May, because May was last year. So you're going to charge me 3 times more for my water, but somebody who paid their bill in June is going to pay 3 times less, 23%. Well, 20%, a little over 20, between 20 and 25% more. I mean, you people just don't give a damn. You do anything you want. Just keep raping the people. Keep taking money. And the trash pickup fees being discussed again. Purple bags are being discussed again. But remember, we got plenty of money. What do we got in the reserve fund? 26 million?
26 million.
26 million, but we need an override for Diamond. Really? What's wrong with that statement, CJ? You told me. Explain to me how we got to put all these new taxes in, all these new fees, all this stuff. The CFO says we're broke on November 29th. You can read it, public record, the minutes of the retirement board meeting of 11/29, where she says we can't afford the contracts, Diamond and Durfee. We're going to need to ask for concessions because we have no money. But all of a sudden, we got $26 million. Last time I checked, if you got $26 million, you got money. I don't know, CJ. Explain that to me. Maybe I'm a little dense. All right, y'all. Look at him. You've been down south too long, y'all. Down there, a fur piece.
Well, you know, I have advocated for some time that the water department start doing monthly billings. If they were doing monthly billings, this problem would be self-resolving. Okay? Had they taken a reading on June 30th and billed it on the day the reading was taken, they wouldn't have this problem. But again, they wouldn't be able to get their sticky fingers on our money. By billing monthly, like many, 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 many communities across the country do, you make it more affordable for the property owner to afford the water and sewer bill. You make it easier for them to budget the money. And you make it much easier to handle unforeseen circumstances. Money is money. And I don't want to hear, well, put the money away every month, and then when the bill comes in, you'll have it. Well, when you're 65 years old, 75 years old, and you're living on a fixed income, and all of a sudden you've got a prescription that you have to pay $125 for, and yes, some of them have to with their copays, where are you going to get that money? You're going to get it out of the money you put aside for this water bill. But if the bill came out every month, they'd pay the bill. That's the one thing I can say about the greatest generation. Okay? They pay their bills. They pay their bills. And they pay them on time.
And they pay their bills even when they can't. Listen, 27% of the people in this country, and Jeff's right, it's a scheme, it's a scam. 27% of the people in this country, and in some areas, 40% of the people are skipping a meal every day to pay their bills. But there's a bombshell coming at next Tuesday's meeting from someone about some of the assessed values of the richest people in this city. Remember Kathy Ann's tax rate? I'm going to give you a little tip. Watch Citizens Input next Tuesday. There's going to be a bombshell, a big reveal about some of these assessed values for the people who are already getting TIFs and ties and HDIP loans and every other kind of thing you can think of. The people who need it are getting the most, while the taxpayer is getting nickeled and dimed to death. Like you said, what billing every month would be great, but they said it's too hard, it's too expensive. Well, if you got $26 million and it would help the taxpayer, why don't you do it? Because you can't. I'm going to tell you how pathetic this city gets and how broke they get. And I have a witness, and I know he will testify because he's a retired police officer. We were in a meeting one time on healthcare. It was just he and I and the city. And we were talking about a change, about mailing stuff to the people and how to get it out, to get the word out to the people. And the city administrator at the time actually said, well, we want you to pay half of the money for the stamps. And we looked and said, what? Well, we want you to pay half the money for the stamps. I said, you're so broke, you can't afford the postage. You want us to pay? We're not going to pay half. You're nuts. You made this change. It's your change. You should be informing the people. And if you don't, they'll all come down here and flood City Hall and burn the place down. So ultimately, they made some kind of announcement. But this is how bad it gets in this city behind closed doors. They're like, they're not bipolar. They're like megapolar, because they talk out of every orifice they got, their ears, everything, their eyeballs. Nothing ever makes sense. Got $26 million, but we can't borrow any money till 2033. We're loaded, we're flush. We're looking at investments down the road. All these contracts are funded, but they're not funded. You know, this is the problem. I will be down there next Tuesday night talking about just this, about how they do not abide by the oath that they swore to uphold the laws, and I will stipulate some of the laws they have violated on the local level, the state level, and the federal level. And also their duty, their fiduciary obligation to look at how we spend our money, and it should be in the benefit of the people of Fall River, of the taxpayer. That's who they are fiduciaries to, the taxpayer. And then they're not. They're not. And I have given them, and I'm not going to give it to them on Tuesday. I've given it to them 1,000,000 times. I've given the cases from Cornell Law School that say very clearly fiduciaries have a legal obligation to act in the best interest of their clients, and the taxpayers and people of Fall River are their clients. By the Constitution, they are our representatives, and they are our fiduciaries. And they are not adhering to their fiduciary. They're ignoring it. Just like they did with the trash pickup, they ignore it. Just like they did with giving out pay raises that are not in ordinance. They ignore the law all the time. They are malfeasant. They put us in this position. That's why we have to have an organization put together. I hope a lot of you guys get down there on Tuesday, because we need to organize for the vote on this debt override, or whatever they're going to come up with, whatever euphemism. Take more money and say no. You put us in this mess. You get us out of this mess. And don't talk about fire and police. Don't try to coerce us by holding a gun to our head. You get rid of all the consultants, all the extra jobs. All the people you hired whose salaries you didn't project when you knew that the money you were funding them with opera money was not going to be there. They have to all go away. They all have to go away before you start. You need to take a scalpel. Every reorganization that Paul Coogan has ever done has resulted in more supervisors making more money. When you look at private industry, reorganizations are normally to make the company more streamlined, to be more productive, to make more money for the business. And in this case, to save more money for the taxpayer. But not this guy. This guy's brought the school department over. We got a superintendent of schools, 6 assistant superintendents, and they were talking about a deputy superintendent. Listen, if you need 6 people, 6 assistant superintendents to run a school district, you're not qualified. I can see having an assistant. We used to have an assistant superintendent of schools, one, when our school system was even larger than it is now. One.
And when it was producing.
And we actually we're educating people. But the reality is they're paying $186,000, CJ?
Yeah, I believe they offered the new person $186,000.
Which is chump change. Not
right.
Chump change for her, not chump change in Fall River, but chump change for what superintendents of schools really get. So if you eliminated 6 assistant superintendents and all their benefits, which is in the millions of dollars, you could pay a superintendent of schools $250,000. You'd get a superintendent that ran a school district that's probably 2 or 3 times larger than ours, that could actually run it without 1,700 assistants. But see, that would make sense. But it's not about sense. It's about giving as many people jobs as you can and buying their vote, just like Joe Biden does by paying everybody student loans so you'll vote for me. That's what I want to do. I want to get all the young vote by paying their student loans, and the other people who already have to work their ass off to pay their student loans off, well, they can go pound sand. But this is the whole key. I mean, this is outrageous. What's going on in this city, look, I've been doing this for a very, very long time, since 1981. You can do the math. You can do the math. And I am not a casual observer. I have been intimately involved in the 3 largest ticket items this city always faces: collective bargaining, healthcare, and retirement. And I know the numbers. I've known the numbers all these years. As a matter of fact, I've had to correct the numbers for this council more than once. Paul Coogan called me when the school department couldn't figure out that this was a group health when he was on the school committee. And I had a conversation with him and explained it to him. So I'm not talking out of my ass here. I got the numbers. I always have the numbers. In all the years I've gone before that council, they can never find one number that I ever presented that wasn't dead on the money. And even Linda Pereira said it. I had to correct them a couple of years ago. Mary Zahadi came in with 45 million. The figure was 40. She said the increase was 7.5%. It was 5. It was a blatant lie. She padded it. And then when they pressed her on it, and then they asked Gallagher for the numbers, and the people from Gallagher, being truthful, they said it was 5% and 40 million. And they settled at 39. So I know the numbers in this city. I have never seen, since from 81 on, an administration and a council and a school committee that has spent money with a total disregard of its impact on the taxpayers and its impact down the road. And with that, CJ, I'll turn it back to you.
Well, the interesting thing is that's what Biden's doing. He claims he's done all of these great things. He's passed more legislation than any other president. But the problem is all of that legislation has cost us trillions of dollars. He's done nothing but spend money. He's constantly finding a way to spend more money. And the loan payoffs, like you said, are just ways to buy votes. Those people who took out those loans, and believe me, I know what it's like to take out student loans. I took out plenty of them, and I had to pay every single one of them back. I didn't get any breaks from the federal government. I didn't get any breaks from the state government. I was told, you owe it, you pay it. And I paid it back, every single dime, to the last $5,000 payment that I made on my last student loan. I remember it. That cost money. That cost me money. So, if the president is going to give all of these people who went to college and spent $100,000 on an art degree or on basket weaving, then you know what? I want my money back.
Well,
And
don't forget
everyone
the
else who paid off
TV
the
major.
student loan, they get their money back too. I'm sure your son racked up a bunch of loans for his degree. He's a doctor. He racked up a bunch of loans.
Yeah, you're right.
The average doctor racks up $100,000 minimum.
And I got bankrupted too because I'd rather pay it with his education and on bail money if he got in trouble. So it was money well spent. But you're right, CJ, and you're a PhD. Well, while we're on that subject, I have to just digress a second or two. I was watching a program one time, and somebody talked about Jill Biden. He said, "Oh, I'm sorry. I have to call her Dr. Jill because it's the law." Now, look, I know a lot of law, but it's specific law. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not an ambulance chaser. I don't know, certain aspects. I did take actually constitutional law, criminal law, just when I was in college. But the thing is that, I'm not an expert in those laws. Collective bargaining, retirement, I know, things like that. 150E, I know stuff. Those things I know. But I didn't think it was a law that you had to call someone doctor who's a PhD. And I saw her PhD thesis. It looked like a third grader wrote it. And I know she would have never got a PhD if she wasn't Joe Biden's wife. But see, they love these titles. You know, the wokies love to just feel elitist. So you have to call them doctors. So, CJ, you're a PhD. Is there a law I got to call you Dr. Ferry from now on this show or what? Yeah, there you go. Dr. CJ. I don't know. I didn't
I've
think
never heard of that. But you know what? I have a lot of titles before and after my name. I never use them. Okay? I can go and say, I am the Honorable CJ Ferry, Justice of the Peace. But I don't. Okay? I can go and say, I am Dr. CJ Ferry, PhD. But I don't. I can say I am CJ Ferry, RN. But I don't. I still sign my name that way. I don't know why, but I do. Comes after 37 years of doing it. But titles are nothing but a way to blow smoke up someone's ass. Okay? It makes them feel good. In many respects, it's like a politician. The only reason why they're senators, representatives, city councilors, school committee members is because the title. They feel wonderful. People turn around and say, city councilor, school committee member, dictator. It's blowing smoke up their ass.
No, yeah, look, they love it to feel elite. See, these people are very, very, like Paulie said, my lawyer friends, my banker friends, all my rich friends. See, regular people don't count. And look, when you go to the doctor's office, it's a term of, obviously he's a doctor. So you refer to him as a doctor because he's in his professional capacity. I assume that if you were in in an educational situation, you were dealing with a PhD, you might say doctor, but I know a lot of PhDs. You're one of them, but I know a lot of PhDs, and they don't require you to call them doctor. But when you're in a social situation or when they're in their own field, they may. Because it isn't title, and it's an earned title. It's not an honorarium.
A lot of times when you're in the educational milieu, that's when they use the title.
Yeah.
When you're in a university, a community college, wherever, and you're teaching or you're there, they'll use the title. But you know what? When I went to nursing school way back when the dinosaurs were still walking the earth.
Before penicillin.
Yeah, we used to scrape it off the bread. Our program director was a doctor, had a doctorate. Several of our instructors were doctorates, and they didn't require us to address them as doctor. Okay? We addressed them as Miss, Mrs., Ms., whatever they preferred. There weren't a lot of men teaching nursing back then. There still weren't a lot of men in nursing. Now it's field day. But it was more of a educational milieu title. When those people went to conferences, when they were with their colleagues, a lot of them may have used the title doctor. But not everyone did. A professor of mine who became a very good friend through my educational process. He was chemistry, which I love chemistry. I still love chemistry. Became a friend. And he didn't require me to call him Dr. So-and-so. I was calling him on a first name basis when we were in private, not when we were in public. And I respect that. I respect that.
Well, yeah, you
but
do.
Titles are titles. They're nothing else. And I think Linda said it best. Okay, damn your titles. I care about you proving your skills in the real world. That is the truth. That is the
Yeah,
truth.
no,
That's the way
no,
it should be.
exactly right, Linda. Yeah, because look, when you look at the trades have various titles. I mean, if you're a master plumber, means you're at the top of the plumb. You know, you're at the top of the food chain in plumbing. You start as an apprentice, and then you work your way up, and then you're just a journeyman plumber, and then you become a master electrician. I guess if you go fishing, you could be a master beta because you put the worms on the hook. I don't know, but I don't know. So, but you don't call when your plumber comes in the house. He doesn't require you to call a master plumber or master electrician. It's like I'm I'm here to do your electrical work, like you say. If you're in that environment, that milieu, you could say that if he was dealing with other plumbers, because this guy's at the top. He's a master. That's it. So you could say, okay, now a journeyman plumber actually would have to defer to a master plumber, as would an electrician. But in the trades, they have a lot of, these other things too. But as you said, they're just really it's kind of like about a barometer of where they are in that trade. So you can tell they're at the top of their trade. They're very well experienced. And it's just there to show you, like, you've got a PhD. So you've studied a lot more nursing than, a community college nurse at that point in time. So you have to get, you would have to assume, that obviously you're at a higher pay grade and a higher, you have more input into decision making because you've worked your way up through the ladder. But to use it as just this condescending manner to just lord it over people, just lord it over. There's a program on in the afternoon, and I forgot what it is. It's on, I think, ABC. And it's kind of one of those shows that a whole bunch of people yammering about nothing. And there's somebody on there, and every time, I forgot. At that point in time, I normally, for some reason, of going through the channels, and I catch it every once in a while. But every time they sign off, she has to announce herself as doctor, just like Dr. Jill. You have to call her doctor. They're required to call her doctor, as she basks in the glory of being called doctor. My doctor at Mass General is like one of the top doctors on the planet. He's like that. One of the top guys in a heart transplant division. Obviously he's a doctor. He's got a zillion certifications in cardiac surgery and heart transplantation. He's also got a PhD. He's also got 2 other PhDs in non-medical fields. The guy's brilliant. He doesn't require me to even call him doctor. But I call him doc when I go to see him and stuff. But the guy is oblivious to his educational weight. I mean, when you look him up, like you do, CJ, when they look you up, they got all your alphabets after that. You got the alphabet soup.
Alphabet soup, baby.
You got the alphabet
Campbell.
soup. You say CJ Ferry, and then you got like 7 million letters after it. And you go, okay, this guy's, A, B, C, D, A, G, D, R, N, B, T. Okay. And this guy's the same way. You look at his credentials. Of course, now if you're looking for a doctor or you want to see why he's working at Mass General and you look this guy's resume up, yeah, of course, you put it in there. But the people who always want you to know, they're the ones who are most of the time I find that are least competent at that. You know,
Look at what Linda says.
yeah. Yeah, that's true. But you know, I've seen that in every field. Now, you know that, you know, I've been involved in combat sports my whole life. Boxing doesn't have any degrees, but karate does, and you know, I've got a lot of and stuff. And I have found that the people who wear, you know, jackets around that say I'm a black belt are normally the people that didn't train a lot. They're not the most competent black belts. Those are the people that want everybody to know who they are. And in actuality, if you're a black belt, you probably shouldn't wear a jacket like that, because if somebody actually believes the jacket and you start any shit with them, they might just run to their car, get a gun, and shoot you because they think you could beat them up. So that's kind of stupid. But that's the first thing you tell people in self-defense. Don't show anybody what you know. You know, let them learn it the hard way if you have to use anything. But you know, this society, these wokies, they're infatuated with titles and labels. They love to label everything. Yet the people who have the greatest content of character, like Martin Luther King, what did he say? And he was a doctor. But what did he say? Judge people on the content of their character, not the color of their skin. And that also goes along with, there's Carlos Caesar from Ponta Delgada.
Our show is international now.
We're international show. Carlos, say hello to everybody. Bom dia. So everybody out there, enjoy yourself. I hope the weather's good. Stop and Shop, close your list. No stores in Fall River. Good. Well, we need to keep the jobs. We need to keep these places open. It's difficult, but yeah. Hello, everybody in Portugal. We're international. I know we used to have some people in England watching us at one time. I don't know if they still do, but yeah, this infatuation with titles. Some of the greatest men in the history of our nation were just plain guys. Abraham Lincoln, no formal education, educated, self-educated, one of our greatest presidents. There are people who have become very wealthy, who work their way up and with sweat equity. And, you know, as Lao Tzu said in the Tao Te Ching, the way of life, knowledge is merely the gateway to the house of wisdom. Just because you got a PhD doesn't mean you're smart. It means you learned a lot of stuff, but rather than actually being able to apply that might be just laying in the back of your brain like a vast cesspool of knowledge that you can't use.
I have that.
Yeah. It's like, you know, we had a guy once in a fire department, and everybody's got their own hobby. His hobby was memorizing words. And he virtually memorized every word in Webster's dictionary. And he had the derivation and everything else. This was his hobby. Well, you know, some people collect bottles. It was kind of crazy. But he memorized every word. And one day I asked him, Henry, are those words, do those words mean anything to you? And he said, well, what do you mean by that? I said, well, if you've memorized every word in the dictionary, but you can't use 75% of them in a sentence, what good are they? And he kind of looked at me and went, oh, no, but he liked memorizing words. So, okay. So he could give you the definition, but tell him to use it in a sentence that actually made grammatical sense. Probably couldn't use, 70% of the words he remembered, because a lot of them were, I mean, obscure, and some of them are even archaic and not even used any longer. But this is the whole thing with these wokies. They love to rub your nose and everything and say, "Oh, shut up, you're inferior to us." You know, like the movie actors are all smarter than us because they got money. You know, Robert De Niro is going to tell us about who to vote for because he can play a movie part, and that makes him better than us. So, you know, we got an election coming up. It's going to be very, very exciting. Keep your eyes and ears open, and let's everybody start thinking about all these taxes, everything that's coming down the pipe. We got to reorganize. You know, I think we're reaching the saturation point for the people of this city. We saw it in 1995. I'll remind them of that on Tuesday. We saw it again during our recall. I think we're getting there again. I think we're getting to the point where we're going to get people to the polls. And they should start this November. Training exercise. Get to the polls in November, because the following November, if these people don't change course, we got a lot of people to throw out on their asses. With that, CJ, back to you.
Thank you. I'm here. It's very interesting. And, you know, we're talking about taxes. And remember, Tuesday's meeting is important for you to show up. It's important for you to make sure your voice, your neighbor's voice, your father's voice, your mother's voice, your child's voice, everyone's voice is heard. Show up 6 p.m., sign up for citizens input, and tell them, do not put a debt exclusion, Prop 2.5 override, whatever they want to call it, on the ballot. The mayor made the bill, make the mayor pay the bill. You are not an ATM machine. And the city council needs to realize you are not an ATM machine. And throw back in Joe Camara's face that he said, we built all these schools without a debt exclusion, except for Durfee. And remind them that to this day, we still don't know how much we're paying in the sense of a debt exclusion. They want to give us a formula to follow to figure it out. Tell them you want that debt exclusion to appear on your bill, yet they want to give you a second one. And again, so he can spend that money the way he sees fit. It's time to stop the waste. It's time to stop the spending. It's time to stop the overtaxation. $26 million. $26 million. That's overtaxation. I don't care about hearing, well, some of it's investments. You can't invest ARPA money. And if you did, it's probably illegal. So I don't want to hear that. It's overtaxation. Because if you know you've got all of these investments coming through, you should have calculated that into your budget. And because you did it, we were overtaxed. Because now you have money to play with. And you shouldn't need a debt exclusion or a Prop 2.5 override because you have $26 million to play with. That is the truth. So on Tuesday, go out and be heard. If you're disabled and you can't get in your house, put it in writing and email it to the city clerk's office. Don't waste any time. Put that together today. Write it today. Write it this weekend so that you know. It's tough enough for many people in this city to afford the taxes they're paying now. Put a stop to it. It's up to you. Because if you don't do it, who's going to do it? Chip and I can only do so much, and we're only two voices out of the wilderness. Nelson's a third. Make your voice heard. Make sure the people know. And make sure the Joe Biden we have on the 6th floor realizes you cannot buy a vote. Corruption is running rampant in the city of Fall River. It's running rampant through the city council. It's running rampant through the school committee. And it's running rampant starting on the 6th floor, especially when he doesn't want to hear any dissent from the elected officials. Instead, he wants you to pay for it because he's spending money and you're going to pay for it because you're the ATM machine. I want to thank you all for watching. Remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold these damn politicians accountable because if you don't, no one will. Have a great weekend and stay cool.